Hey everyone, I'm Mike Del Preti, and you're listening to Context, the podcast where I'm talking to industry leaders about the businesses and technologies changing real estate. My guest today is Mark McLaughlin. Hi, Mark.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. Happy to be here in Boulder.
Yes, it is a more beautiful weather. So, Mark, right now you're the interim president at Compass, where you've been for about a year and a half or so.
A little over a year, yep. Mm-hmm.
And then kind of before that, owner and CEO of Pacific Union, which at the time you sold it to Compass was the largest independent brokerage in California?
Largest independent in California and fifth largest in the country.
Okay.
By sales volume.
And when did you sell it to Compass?
That was in September of 2018.
All right. So you've had a busy couple of years and you've been all over the show. So Mark, we've got to know each other pretty well over the past couple of years, and you were in my class like a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And you definitely strike me as an operator. You know what it takes to make a business work, and you know that real estate is a people business. So it's a pleasure to have you here to kind of pull out some of those learnings.
Sure.
All right. So how do you typically begin your day?
Oh, wow. I'm a morning person. So I generally I'm up at 4:40. I get a little bit of private time to myself until around 6. I then jump on the bike that goes nowhere. Do some exercise, functioning, things like that. Oftentimes on the bike, I'll read legal documents. So it's just multitasking, takes care of my brain and advances whatever cycle I'm working on. Not bicycle, but business cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a morning person. And then by the time the sun comes up, the heavy lifting of the thinking part of my day is over and it's time to get out with the people.
Amazing. Do you caffeinate yourself?
I love that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's sort of the 5 o'clock to 5:30 piece.
Oh, beautiful. So what struck me about your time in my class before was when you were talking about Pacific Union. You bought that business when?
We closed on August 4th of 2009.
So 2009, and then sold to Compass 2018.
9 years later.
Yeah, so 9 years. You bought that business in the middle of the GFC, so it was probably pretty close to chump change, very small amount, relatively, and then sold it to Compass. I think, the number was 9 figures. Was what it was quoted, right? Mm-hmm. So quite a good increase of that business. So I want to start there. I mean, when you bought that business and came in, how were things looking and what was your strategy?
So every other day for about 60 days leading up to the acquisition of Pacific Union, I woke up thinking this is the greatest idea in the world or the worst idea in the world. And literally every other day it was like that. So thank God August 4th was the right day.
Yeah.
But the business was a mess. It was owned by GMAC. GMAC Real Estate Services included franchising, relocation, and 6 brokerage companies like Pacific Union. They were also the largest subprime lender in the United States that started to fall apart in 2007. So there was really just an unloading of the real estate assets, meaning the operating assets. So when we bought it, it was on a run rate of losing about $3.7 million a year. And that's really a lot. That's a lot larger of an operating loss that my checkbook could handle at the time. So it was a fast and furious downsizing of the business, like literally closing offices, laying people off, right-sizing the business. And just about the time that the fourth quarter of 2009 came along, the wind just started blowing at our back.
How do you figure out what to cut?
So I learned in a different business that you cut everything until someone screams. And if someone doesn't scream, then you just keep cutting because it's not valuable to them. And office space was a huge component of sort of overspending at the time. The offices were large, the reception areas were huge, the conference rooms are huge, and usually normal times in a real estate company, there's 2 or 3 people in a conference room, not 23 people in a conference room. So we downsized our real estate portfolio pretty aggressively. We got rid of everybody that wasn't agent facing, but we had to. We had to do it for survival. And then every single Friday at 5 o'clock, I got a report on the next 90 days cash flow. I got a report on new listings, new closings, and new under contract. So every single Friday at 5 o'clock, I knew what was going on in the business. At the time, it was 17 offices, but that operating rigor was not in place when I got there.
So when you cut enough to survive, you stopped the leaking, and then you started to think about growth of the business. Mm-hmm. How did you start thinking about taking market share and actually growing?
In this business, you're either growing your market share or you might be going out of business slowly. Just staying flat, that's not a strategy. That's just sort of maybe laziness. So I got the management team together the 1st of December of 2009, and we were doing about $50 million a year in GCI, gross commission revenue at Pacific Union. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, in the next 24 months, we're going to 100 million. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy, but that's exactly what we did. And you have to do it as a team. And people had to brainstorm and collaborate and beat that idea up and refine it so that they owned it. So at the end of a 2-day session, everybody owned the plan to go to 100 million. And by the time we got to 2018, it was just shy of 400 million.
How do you get your team to own a plan like that?
They have to participate in the development of it. You have to ask them, if you manage this geography, what's your share today? If it's 7%, then what stands between you and getting to 12%? And what resources would you need to get there? We would always do our brainstorming without finances limiting it. Because if the idea was good enough, and the outcome was going to be good enough, we could figure out a way to finance it. So we never let finance constrain our thinking.
Okay. And then ultimately, what was driving that growth? How did you get from 50 to 100 million?
So all of that growth came in the San Francisco Bay Area. We started with 17 offices and 400 people, and we finished in the Bay Area in 2018, I think, with 28 offices and some 8 billion. From 2 billion to 8 billion, from 50 million to 200 million. So we grew it pretty aggressively, and it was all organic, recruiting one person at a time.
So, that's it. It was recruiting, and it's just have a lot of conversations with a lot of people.
And also to have an offering that was attractive to folks.
What was the offering?
The offering was as much of a culture as it was the tools. We invested in the best tools at the time, which is very different than the best tools in today's time. But we invested in the best tools at a time to make the agents the best that they could be. And we also had a culture of cooperation, of collaboration. If someone was, like, I'll give you an example. If you aspire to get a listing that you're normally trading in a $1 million average trade, and you aspire to get a $4 million listing, that's intimidating. Well, why don't you take a colleague with you and have that colleague who plays in that arena help you land that listing, and then you're on your way. And someday you'll pay that favor back to that agent. So there were things like that in the culture that we really wanted people to collaborate together.
You mentioned investing in the best tools. What was the best tool investment you made?
Well, looking back, all the tools were fairly marginal by today's standards. But we were the first, I think, maybe in the United States to come out with a digital listing presentation on a MacBook, on an iPad. You could set the digital listing presentation up via your computer and hit publish, and it would go to a website, it would go to print, and it would go to an iPad. So you could literally walk into a client's living room to do your listing presentation from an iPad. Nobody had that at the time.
Why do you say that was the best investment?
Well, number one, it was the greatest recruiting tool I could imagine, and I didn't know that at the time. We spent $1.3 million on it, I think, something in that nature, on a budget of $500,000. But in the San Francisco Bay Area, leading with tech is an expectation of a client, right? We live in the Silicon Valley. So if you're not tech forward, the client judges your technology not by other real estate companies' technology, but they judge it by all the other technology in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could acclimate to that level of being iPad-oriented, phone-oriented, as opposed to print it out, PDF it, shrink wrap it, and send it to someone, we got a competitive edge in recruiting for sure.
Do you think that theme is still true today?
Well, yes. I think that the Compass platform today is second to none. And I think it will be 5 years to a decade before anybody can invest that kind of money again in a platform, unless a technology vendor comes along and provides it for the industry. We have to amortize the costs of our technology over 34,000 agents.
Mm-hmm.
If we could amortize it all across 1.3 million agents, it could be more affordable. But for right now, it's a competitive advantage.
Is there a particular piece of that technology platform that you think really moves the needle for an agent?
Well, the AI components of likely to sell, things like that definitely do. If the real estate professional decides that I have all the confidence and trust in the business to drop all of my contacts into the CRM, our tech team has provided some fantastic resources for them to be smarter about their own database.
So likely to sell, an agent getting a report from the system saying, hey, out of all your contacts, these 10, 20 people are likely to sell in the next 1 to 2 months.
Yeah, I might get these numbers wrong, but I think for every 100 people in your CRM, you're going to get 6 to 8 indicators of somebody that's likely to sell. And downstream, you're also going to get a list of people that are in your CRM that sold that didn't use you.
Do you think that's more powerful for an active agent who's using the system, or do you think it's more powerful as a recruiting tool to get agents to join?
It could be both. Some of our best top performers, they have so much business and it's all relationship based, and they're not going to rely on that tool the same way someone is in the sort of the mid tenure of their career, still trying to grow into their market share and things like that.
So zipping back to Pacific Union, why sell to Compass?
I've been asked that question a lot. So Compass came to San Francisco in 2016. And by 2016, we were somewhere in the neighborhood of 18% market share in the state of California. We had done 12 acquisitions to grow the business down in Southern California. And Compass at the time had a goal of 20-20-20, 20% market share, 20 markets by 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, by definition, they were coming through my front door. And by definition, I could accelerate their path to 2020. So it was a very interesting match. And I was very fortunate to have Fidelity National Financial as my partner for the 9 years. They were incredible partners. And we just sat down and said, you look at the horizon of the business, and this might be a really good decision to join the company that's shaping the future of the industry.
What was the hardest part about selling it for you?
Not being in charge.
How did you deal with that?
Patiently.
You stuck around for a while, then you left.
Yeah.
Before you went back.
I stayed for 2 years. We basically ran Pacific Union inside the Compass brand for about 2 years. And then it was really time to convert everything, co-populate offices, close offices, things like that. It was time to merge the businesses together instead of running parallel tracks. And it's a lot easier to do that without the founder around.
Yeah.
So I just decided to, I just called Robert one day and said, hey, I think it's time. And that was in either April or May, just after we went public in 2021. And I remember exactly where I was standing. I just said, I think it's time for me to go. And we maintained an incredible relationship for the next 2 years while I was gone.
Yeah. You mentioned at Pacific Union, you did about a dozen acquisitions. You sold Pacific Union to Compass. And since you've been back at Compass, Compass has acquired a couple other businesses. What are the ingredients of a successful acquisition?
As strange as it might be, the first thing I'll share with you is culture. Like if you buy businesses that are not aligned with the operating behavior and the culture of the company, it's hard. But you can then take that down 2 different tracks. And I'll use the example of Ladder and Bloom in Louisiana and the surrounding areas, and both really Austin in Texas and Parks in Tennessee. Like Pacific Union in Tennessee and Texas, Compass and the companies we acquired were competitors, intense competitors.
Mm-hmm.
So one morning, an announcement where the teams have been working on this trade for 100 days and they're very comfortable with it. And then you tell the people, like, they're on day one. They're not on day 100. They're on day one and they have to acclimate to it. Wait, I was a competitor and now we're together. Whereas in Louisiana with Ladder and Bloom, I had a great relationship with Lacey, loved the company, loved the culture and everything, but we were never competitors. So it's a much more sort of simpatico path. It's a nicer path. So those are the 2 different, and the integrations are different in those 2 environments and things like that.
Yeah. And just, for the listeners, these 3 companies, Parks, Ladder and Bloom, and Realty Austin, are all businesses that Compass acquired.
Correct.
Okay. So for an acquisition where before you were fierce competitors and then after you were coming together, if you're standing up to address the team, what's the key message you get across to everybody?
Yeah, we're going through a lot of that discussion internally right now, but in acquisitions, we're in the people business. And so we have to be sensitive to how the people are feeling about it, both the Compass people feeling about the acquisition company and the acquired company feeling about Compass. And you can never stand in front of someone and say nothing's going to change, because obviously it's going to change. It has to change. You want it to change. There's benefits in change. The market share and the brand alone is magnificent. So it's the journey that they're going on in the next 100 days that really make it most successful. And the people that say, I don't want this, I don't want to do this, you have to sit down with them just eye to eye. I went through this in Southern California and say, you always have the ability to go anywhere. Just give this 100 days and then make your decision. Because you're going to find that, like your management team and like our management team, there's significant upside for you in just in your business practices.
Yeah, that's a great line. Give it 100 days, see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, so you took a vacation for 2 years. We're on a beach, sipping cold drinks, and then now you're back at Compass.
Mhm.
Why'd you go back?
Number one, I miss the people. And I maintained a really solid relationship with Robert, maybe every 45 days on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Refkin for the listeners. And it's really funny. One day he called and he said, Mark, you know that upside down pyramid that you used to use at Pacific Union for the org chart?
Hmm.
Do you still have that? I'm like, you mean the one I'm not supposed to have, Robert? Yeah, I still have it. And he said, will you send that to me? And I sent it to him. And he called back like 10 minutes later and said, would you ever consider coming back? And there's a sequence of events that happened between that phone call in April and me coming back in the middle of July. But I've
Middle
been
of July, what year?
23.
23.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just 14 months ago.
Yep.
And so my background has always been a very intense athlete. And then I think the transformation of that into business is running a team and now being the coach of the team. And coaches can't go on the playing field. Coaches have to stay out on the sidelines.
Mm.
So my role in coming back is to share my experience, share my successes, especially share things that I didn't do well and failures to keep people on the right track, and to impart as much of the knowledge that I have accumulated to the leadership team at Compass so that we can be better executing with our real estate professionals.
So practically, what does that look like? How do you spend a week?
Well, I spend a lot of my time in the field. Probably 75% of my time is in the field with the people and still asking them what they want, but also helping in kind of explaining how the programs that we're rolling out have a positive impact on them. And one of the roles that I think I've played in refinement is, okay, that's a really good idea, what we're considering, but let's reconsider the execution strategy because here's the way the field's going to absorb it. Here's the way the field's going to receive it. Like we have a growth program where we want our agents and our sales professionals to introduce other possible real estate professionals to our recruiting team. And sometimes the field can feel like you've just given me another task.
Mm.
I'm like, no, I've just given you for the first time your ability to direct the growth team. Your ability to say, I want to hire this person, not that person, because this person's better for my culture. So it's just a little different way to position the same program.
Yeah.
And we've made a lot of changes in our integrated services, mortgage, escrow, title, things like that, where the attach motion is a culture on a national basis, like the culture of attach, that it's important to us, but the execution is local. So the execution between the escrow company, the title company, and the mortgage company has to be face-to-face with the sales manager. You can't do it by sending out spreadsheets, here's your goal. No, they have to get together and say, I'd really like to know that real estate professional because they do a lot of jumbo mortgages and that we got a great mortgage product. So it's teamwork. We call the program Come and Get It. It's not the real estate manager's job to send business to the mortgage company. It's the mortgage company's job to come and get the business.
That's interesting. Come and get it. It's the mortgage company's job to come and get the business.
Right.
That seems really counterintuitive to what a lot of people expect.
Well, maybe their attach rates are different.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. If you go to an institutional lender like Wells Fargo that's in the mortgage business, they don't have a relationship with Compass, and they come they're chasing mortgage people all the time. They're chasing real estate people all the time for clients.
Hmm.
So our integrated services folks have to have the same hustle factor. They have to have the same hustle factor in coming and getting the business, and it works.
Is there an example you can provide of like what that looks like in action?
Where it came from was a program that we developed at Pacific Union when we expanded to Tahoe, which is about 180 miles from the Bay Area. We had a team originally came together up there of about 17 people. And I went up there to visit with them and I said, it's not our job to send you business. It's your job to come and get it. Like the difference between us and a competitor is we own all of our offices in the Bay Area and for that matter later in Southern California. Many of the other operators are franchises. So if you get invited to one sales meeting, it doesn't mean you're going to get invited to the next. Last September, I was up at Tahoe and this agent by the name of Scott Willers came up to me and said, does the number 187 mean anything to you? I'm like, not really. He goes, 9 years ago when you came up here and did that come and get it speech, I have now closed 187 inbound referrals from Bay Area professionals that were formerly at Pacific Union. I was up there 2 weeks ago. He's now over 200. That's 20 a year
Wow.
inbound referrals from coming and getting it. And our attach rates are up in many, many different places
Yeah.
because of that.
Super interesting. So you've been at Compass for how long now?
14 months.
14 months. What do you think Compass as an organization has learned over the past 14 months?
Well, I think the question should be a little bit broader because what Compass has been through since 2021 is nothing short of remarkable. Like from the IPO on April 1st of 2021 to where they were when I showed up in July of 2023, what the management team went through is like heroic. Downsizing a business from about 1.6 billion in expenses to 900 million and later down to sort of 865. Try and do that at home. Try and cut your monthly home expenses in half. First of all, you'd have to downsize your house, right? Which we did. So that was just really heroic in my mind. And I've told the leadership team that a lot, and I wasn't there for that. What I was there for was the refinement from like 910 down to 865 and 850. And those last few moves were, you sure on that? You know, and there was a lot of what would you have done like when you were at Pacific Union? Like what would you have done in this situation? When I came back, I felt the team had an insatiable request for real estate knowledge. You know, there's a few folks on the executive team that have that knowledge, but the vast majority were just like, just give it to us.
Yeah.
And so that's where I hope they would agree that my role has been as a coach, as a like, let's try it this way. And with the regional presidents and the regional vice presidents is to, you know, here's how to approach the business.
Yeah. Okay. Earlier, we were chatting and you said something that reminded me of one of my favorite quotes that I use in presentations. We're losing so slowly we think we're winning.
Gary Keller.
Yeah. Which was taken out of context, but it does apply to this, which is interesting. You know, without naming specific company names, do you think that's true now? Are there types of companies in real estate that are at risk of losing?
You've published facts on this. You know, you can look at agent migration, you can look at revenues, you can look at all those different things. And, you know, I just firmly believe you're either growing your business or you're going out of business slowly. And that was a cornerstone of Pacific Union.
Yeah.
And it's a cornerstone at Compass. We're relentless about growth.
Yeah.
And so if you're not, there are going to be people passing you on the highway.
Yeah. It's all relative.
Yeah.
Right. Every press release you read, everybody's doing fine.
Yeah.
You know, they're number one in this, they're growing that. But when you start comparing it, which again is something I like to do, connecting those dots and looking at all the context.
Two of the just clearest empirical data points are top line revenue and agent growth.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing both of those, something's going right. If you're not doing either of those, somebody needs to pay more attention.
Well, I was just looking at it this morning, actually, Compass's agent count, because about a year ago, it was all about the cash burn, right? Compass was, quote unquote, running out of cash and needed to make these drastic cuts. And the question that I asked at the time was, can Compass make those cuts and keep agents? Right? And the answer is yes.
It happened. And that's the part that I think is remarkable. It was quite an accomplishment.
That doesn't have anything to do with scalpels and cuts and numbers and Excel spreadsheets. I mean, that really just comes down to communication, doesn't it?
I think it does. And you have to be thoughtful about the context of Compass's growth over sort of a 9-year period as opposed to the last 3. Endless access to capital and the market wind at their backs. Starting in March of 22 at the very, very latest, limited if no access to capital and the wind on our forehead. And so you have to take out every role that's not agent facing. You know, I was with our VP of technology on Wednesday night for dinner, and he told me the whole stories as to how he downsized the tech team to half the size. But he got to keep the people that he wanted to keep. You have to make those decisions, and they're hard decisions. So I really admire the team for having done it.
Yeah. So, Mark, you've got a wealth of experience in the industry, and you strike me as a kind of guy who is a straight shooter and tells the truth. Is there an opinion that you hold that not many people agree with?
About the whole industry?
Yeah, real estate focused or business focused.
Well, on the real estate focus, I think that our industry will tell you there are no barriers to entry, and therefore anybody can be a real estate agent. And I really disagree with it because if you want to go to work at Oracle or Salesforce or pick your company, you better have a badass resume. a badass track record, incredible references and things like that. That is because the executives of those firms hold the standards very high for people they're willing to hire. In real estate, you have to have a license first, but then the barriers to entry from the management teams hiring these folks are not very high. So I think that we are sort of the conductors of our own orchestra. If you want to hold high standards at your company, you certainly can. I mean, we try to do that. And every year, we're just finishing it right now, we eliminate the non-performers. I think there will be, I can't say the number, but there will be a significant number of non-performers dismissed from the business in the coming week, 2 weeks.
Interesting.
Because what happens in a real estate company is the top agents sit around and they see the few people that come to the sales meetings all the time asking questions that are like, have you been in the market lately? Or coming to the open houses and eating all the food? Well, we don't need those folks. Let's get them move on. Let's get their careers going somewhere else.
But why? Why bother? I mean, they're not really costing you anything.
Culture. Sure they do. That's another misnomer. Sure they cost you something. They may be in the sales manager's office all the time. We have technology licenses for them. We rent real estate for them. Let's go get a top performing real estate professional for that chair. And there's an element of respect that comes from the top performers when they see we've taken action on someone who's not really performing, because they see it and they're like, well, why won't they make the tough decisions?
Yeah.
Our real estate professionals want us to make the tough decisions, whether it's closing an office or changing a manager or something like that. They want us to make those decisions.
Speaking about making decisions, is there an instance where you had to make a really tough call that went against the grain of conventional wisdom?
Oh, for sure. About 3 months after I came back, I took over the role as president of California. And in the next 9 months, which ended on June 30th, we either downsized or closed 20 offices.
Out of how many?
Probably 115 or 120.
Okay.
So it's substantial.
Yeah.
20%. And when you approach that, and what we're trying to do is continue to drive costs out of our operation so that we can be cash flow positive, adjusted EBITDA positive, and GAAP net income positive in the worst real estate market since 1995. They're hard decisions, but we have to lead with confidence. And when you talk to a manager about, we're going to close your office and we're going to move you in with the other one, if you close my office, the agents are going to leave. And my response is, I understand they're leaving. We're closing the office. We just want them to go to another office. You chuckle, but that's the confidence you have to lead with, right?
Yeah.
You can't come in and say, I'm really sorry, I'm going to close this office. You need to come with the confidence. The energy will be different. The collaboration will be different. Our market share can become different. The resources will be different. We have to run the business in a fiscally responsible way.
Yeah. Love it. That's time for today. Any closing thoughts?
This is my personal belief, not Compass's belief. I believe we're in for about a 5 to 7 year run in residential real estate, coming from the bottom that was kind of put in October of 23 at about 3.8, 3.9 seasonally adjusted home sales. We'll get back to 5.75, 6 million in the next 5 to 7 years. So I think we're in for a really exciting run.
It's going to be an interesting time for everybody in the space to see some energy again. And, it's kind of the race cars going around the track. We're coming out of the corner and everybody's accelerating.
Yeah, I mean, just think about what I said earlier, that if we're at 4 million home sales seasonally adjusted right now in the United States, and we go to 440 or 4.4,
yeah,
that's 1 million more people making home decisions, because there's two sides to the trade,
right.
And there's some people that didn't get the house.
Right.
That's a lot of folks.
That's a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So exciting. You're smiling. So exciting time to be in the industry to see what's happening.
I think so.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark. Really appreciate the time. You've been listening to Context. I'm Mike Del Preti. If you want to check out more podcasts or more of my research, check out my website at mikedp.com. All right. Thanks.